here. Today I'm back with my second tutorial where we're going to be starting the basic functions in C++ code. We're going to be doing basically the first thing that you ever do with C++ or any programming language. Just as simple as writing hello world on the screen. And again, yes. So yeah, C++, let's go. So, basic parts of a program. In a program of C++, obviously there's going to be different parts. We just need to learn about these first before we start launching ourselves into programming, because otherwise it'll be very confusing. So, let's do some of this. So first, in a program, you have some header files that you need to include. These are sort of other packages that let you do more stuff in C++. So C++ can literally do pretty much nothing apart from like adding up things, subtracting, maybe multiplying. It can't even output text to a screen. So we need to include a file, or a header file at that will allow us to write stuff, for example, in our program. The next thing is the namespace declaration. And a namespace is basically almost a folder or a scope. It's, for example, the way you write some text onto the screen, I'm just going to come like this, is you write C out, and then this thing, and then some text, yeah, so semicolon. We don't need to worry about that yet, we'll get to that later, but basically a namespace declaration, if you had no namespace declaration whatsoever, you'd have to write std, or standard, and then the scope marking, which is like 4 dots, or 2 colons, and then C out, and then that. So basically, yeah, it's just better to use, well, some people think you shouldn't use a namespace declaration, but I think it's useful. It is so useful to have a namespace declaration. There's not really much of an argument on why not to use it. Anyway, if you want to, you don't have to use a namespace declaration, but I would suggest, if you want to be easy, just to start off with, use it. Anyway, let's get on to the next bit, the main function. Basically, this is obviously a function that is in the main C++ file. And when the C++ compiler looks for the main function, it will obviously look for it and then run the things inside the function. So what is inside the main function? Well, there's 2 things actually. The first one is obviously the code that is in the function. This does things and like calls other functions maybe. And then the return code, which basically tells the compiler or the runner how it was returned. So for example, if I return 0, then it means it had a good exit, it was okay. If I return code 1, then basically that means it didn't go quite well, and there was an error. If it was -1, it's sort of the same as 1. Basically, if it's 0, it's good. If it's anything else, it's bad. So, unless you've got another function. But basically, if the entire program exits as exit code 0, then it's good, which is what we like to see. So, yeah. Let's begin programming, and obviously today I'm going to be using C++ as the language. Obviously the IDE will be NetBeans, and the compiler, the Cygwin compiler. So let's go, NetBeans! Okay, so I have NetBeans already booted up. If you don't already, just pause the video or whatever, and get your compiler started up. Obviously you don't have to use NetBeans, but whatever it is you're using. So in NetBeans, to start up a new C++ project, all you need to do is head up to the top corner, click this button here. It's like an orange folder icon, and then you come up here, and then you scroll down to get C or C++. If you don't see this, then you might not have downloaded the right version of NetBeans. So yeah, that's something to bear in mind. Then you click C++ application, C or C++ application, nothing else, and then click next. If you've got your compiler working and everything, then you will get this come up, and it won't have like error, no compilers found or whatever. So basically leave everything as it is, but I'm just going to quickly change this to C++ because yeah, okay, so I'm going to go tutorial 02 because this is lesson 2 in our thing. Yeah, so tutorial 02. And then just leave everything the same and click finish. So then NetBeans will probably take a bit of time if you haven't used C++ before, and it still takes a bit of time on my computer. But anyway, so we have this done. So, oh no, nothing's happened. Don't worry. Anyway, the way you do this is you've got source files over here, and that's where all of these sources of your project go, or the C++ files. So I'm just going to expand all of these, and you see we have a few different things. Yeah, gosh, that wasn't meant to happen. Don't worry. Anyway, so basically, in here we have tutorial 02, header files, which has got nothing in, resource files, which has got nothing in, test files has got nothing in. You've got two things: source files and important files. You've got the main.cpp, which will open by double clicking, the make file, which will open by double clicking. So basically, the main.cpp, I am just going to totally remove absolutely everything because we don't need that yet. Save. The make file, you don't really need to know what this does. This basically is a help for the compiler that basically will compile your code and run it for you. So in main.cpp is our program. So if we go back to the presentation, there are lots of things we need. So header files to include is the first part of the program, and that will allow us to write things on the screen if we include a certain header, or like take things like ask the user for inputs, or basically run a console application. So we need to import our header, obviously. So the way we do this in C++ is we write a hashtag. It's not really C++ code yet, but basically put a hashtag, and then you've got another sort of thing you need to write, which is include, and this is sort of to include basically we're going to include a header that will allow us to read and write from the console. So we need to include it in angle brackets, because angle brackets are just what you use for this, and then we need to write inside IO stream. This sort of stands for in-out stream, which basically means you can go in and out, and basically, yeah, in and out from the console. So that is the first bit, all fine. So let's go down a couple of lines. So next thing we have is the namespace declaration. This is also pretty simple. This probably won't change for any of the programs that you ever write. You just write using namespace std, and then because this is real C++ code, you have to put a semicolon at the end of the line, and likewise with there. Do you have to put a semicolon there? I can't remember. I don't think you do. Just leave it blank. No, just, wait. No. Leave it blank. You don't need it. Anyway, so include IOStream using namespace standard. This will basically give you sort of your setup. Now we need the main function. And to define a function, you can't just write like function XYZ. You have to tell the compiler what type you want it to return. So these are data types. For example, there is one called int, or integer, which is basically like a whole number, really. So in the main function, you normally use void, which doesn't return anything, or int, which returns a number, for example 0, 1, -4. And then so we're going to use int because it's just useful. So then because it's the main function, we write int main. And then because it's a function, it will take in some parameters, or sort of things that it will take in from the outside world, and then like do stuff with it inside the function, and then output something maybe, and then end the function. So because main doesn't need anything to run, it's just the main function and it just does its job as it's supposed to, we have some brackets empty. Make sure they're like the curvy ones or the parentheses. So now what we do is we need to put some brackets like that. Those are the brace brackets, and normally on your keyboard you've got two types of brackets on the same key. There's one that's like curly and one that's all square. You press shift to get the curly ones. So basically this is the setup for any function. You write the return type, or int, and then the function name, and then what it takes in from the outside world, and then these brackets. So now we're going to write the code in our function. Well, actually, we'll start with the return code because that's useful. And if we've got an int main, we need to return an int, obviously, or an integer, which is a whole number. And because there's no, if this function runs completely well, we can have like and then right at the bottom, if everything runs well, then we can put return 0, and then a semicolon at the end because you have semicolons in C++ code. So let's run it. If it doesn't work first time, sometimes it just won't build first time and it won't work. Mine, I think, will. We'll just wait for it to compile. And then it will run, and then I'll show you how to fix it if I can remember how. Hopefully, build successful and run. Yes, it failed, as I thought it might have done. So I think you go in tools, no, file, project properties, and then you go run, and then instead of internal terminal here, you go to standard output, right? The standard output will basically make it just make it work. Basically, that's the best way to do. That's the best way to do it. It will make it work. Okay, so now it says run successful. Total time 181 milliseconds. I really don't care. I've already done that. So that means it's all good and everything works. So let's I'll just click that just to get console. No, actually, I really don't care. Anyway, so now the only thing we've got left is this bit here, which is the code inside the function, and that is what's actually going to do things. So basically, to get the code in the function, you just write the code, but we're going to do it above the return. So if it fails, then it won't return 0. Yeah, because it's come before and it fails and it doesn't do anything after it. So there, basically, the way we output stuff to the screen is we write C out, which is like console out. And then we write these 2 angle brackets like that. I don't really know. I think that's called the insertion operator. And it basically means that whatever's on this hand side, this sort of area here, will be inserted into the cout function, which will output something to the screen. So cout, and then these 2 little things, and then that's basically a string, or basically some text. To make some text, you just put it in quote marks like this, or single quotes like that. Doesn't really matter which ones you choose. I prefer to use these for some reason. So we're just going to write hello world, and obviously semicolon at the end of the line, and then save. And basically I've written hello world in quotes, and all this does is it takes this, which is in quotes, and it pushes it into the cout function, which is going to output to the console. So let's click run. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, basically it's going to run, and it says here hello world, and that is all good. So now yeah, basically that is our terminal, and sometimes you'll get like this sort of come up on your screen, and you'll get this come up, and you'll get like hello world get written on here. But in the Cygwin compiler and NetBeans, you have it here. So basically, you've written your first C++ code. Congratulations! I know I kind of nattered on a bit. You might have been a bit confusing, but trust me, when we go further into C++, it will become clear why we're doing all of this, and we can't just write this line on its own. Yeah, this line. And it will become clear. But basically, that is all you need to know now. Yeah, so, yeah, that's all you need to know. Well done, you've created your first C++ projects, and, yeah. Yeah, thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you do want to see more of these videos. And, of course, yeah, just like and subscribe, and see you back at the next video. Thanks for watching.